One fact tuning into today's video, we're going to do the JMA Friday today. I have a long range update from the Japanese models. So we're going to have a look at monthly 500 millibar anomalies from them, and then we'll have a quick look at what it's showing for February, March and April in the free monthly update as well. And we've also got a couple of interesting charts to look at from the GFS model. So we'll have a look at all of that in a moment. Before I get on with that though, just to talk about the advertising. There's a video ads on my pages at gazworthbiz.com. If you hit play on the video ad, you'll be supporting gazworthbiz.com. And thanks very much for doing that. It pays the website basically, so every time you hit play on the video ad, don't necessarily have to sit and watch the whole thing all the way through. Just hit play on the video ad. Every time you do that, Gazworthies gets a royalty fee on what you're doing. So you're getting involved with the website and helping to pay for the website. And as I say, thanks very much for doing that. So we're going to start off with the 500 millibar height anomaly charts from the JMA model, broken down into weekly periods. Of what you need to know is that 500 millibars is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure and low pressure is developing, and it's really those areas of high pressure and low pressure are moved around by the jet stream. That essentially is what weather is. Now the blue colours are where we've got below average heights, that's low pressure. The yellow, red and orange colours where we've got above average heights, and that essentially is high pressure. So we're breaking this down into weekly periods. The first period is taking us from the 17th to the 24th of January. Now we're upside down with this, but it's very clear to see what's going on. We're just there and we're under this deep blue area, so that's a very unsettled anomaly for the coming week. There'll be further showers or longer spells of rain. That is low pressure, trough of low pressure, well and truly in charge across the country for the coming weekly period. Going to be a very unsettled week if that's right. Going through to the next weekly period, which takes us from the 24th to the 31st of January, so right to the end of the month, and no real change actually. The blue colours are firmly anchored around the country. The jet stream is coming across the Atlantic, probably just about on the cold side of the jet, but it's not really much of a change there. We're still well and truly under low pressure. We're under the blue colours, so we've got a trough of low pressure sitting around the country. The absolute core of trough may be shifting ever so slightly to the east, so that may allow more in the way of northwesterly or northerly flows perhaps. So there will be some cooler air coming into this trough at times. Potentially is there for some wintry precipitation, but it's a very unsettled anomaly for the last week of January. And if that's right, we are looking, I think, at a remarkably unsettled, possibly a very wet month. Could be one of the wettest Januaries on record, I would think, if these anomalies we're looking at are correct, because we've already had a very, very wet first half of January. There's no sign of really of the second half of January being a great deal drier. Now, as we go through to the final 2 weekly period, which takes us from the 31st of January to the 14th of February, well then of course we're going further out, so the colours are coming up. We've not got the intensity of the colours, but look at this, it's still the same idea with the blue colours firmly around the British Isles, so it's staying unsettled if that's right. Low pressure will be in control. Whether it'll be as unsettled as it has been for January is open to some doubt on that, but there's no real change there in terms of the overall setup. The blue colours, the below average heights, the trough of low pressure firmly anchored around the country, so more very unsettled conditions would be probable going into the start of February. Again, this does possibly allow for some northwesterly or northerly influences perhaps at times, but overall, again, that's another very unsettled looking 500 millibar heights anomaly for February, a really unsettled month coming up if that's correct. Now, just have a look at the JMA 3 monthly updates. That was the 1 monthly update from the Japanese model. This that you're looking at here is the 3 monthly update from the JMA model. It has updated just recently as well. We're looking at sea level pressure this time, average sea level pressure anomalies for February first of all, and again it's the same idea. The blue colours low pressure, the yellow colours high pressure, so it's basically showing for February we've got high pressure out in the Atlantic, low pressure around British Isles. It's very slightly to the east of British Isles, so again this does allow possibly for some northwesterly, northerly influences to come through at times. Could be quite a chilly-ish sort of month, quite a cool month, but it's very unsettled still with the low pressure more centred to the east and south if anything than the north and west, but it certainly isn't a signal for anything particularly dry through the course of February. Have a quick sneak peek at March, and this is the sea level pressure anomaly for March. Well, then it's seeing the low pressure going off up to the north. The blue colours are going to the north of Scotland, and we're bringing some high pressure actually as an anomaly into the southwest and the south of the country. So that's quite a nice looking month actually for March. It's a much drier looking signal, and particularly for England and Wales, I think that could be quite a spring-like month, quite a nice month. Always more unsettled up to north and west, but nothing again there particularly cold. Wouldn't be anything like the sort of March we had last year. It would be a much more typical sort of pattern for March, and really quite a nice start to spring. And then finally, a long way off, but going out to April, the third month of the Japanese update, and then it's seeing the blue colours coming back to the country. So April, much more unsettled month with low pressure probably dominating. Could be quite a wet month actually in April, if that is right. Again, there's no sort of blocking being signalled at the northern latitude, so there's nothing really there to suggest it's particularly cold, but it certainly is a more unsettled signal for April as opposed to March. So quite a decent March coming up, if that's right, but a much more unsettled April. Just have a look at the 500 millibar high anomaly from the CFS model for February, see what that's showing, and visit my website weatherweb.net by the way. You can find a link to WeatherWeb at my links page, and again it's the same idea really, but blue colours well entrenched there across the British Isles, much of northern and western Europe as well. So again, it is low pressure firmly in control of the pattern for the British Isles. Below average heights, low pressure, going to be an unsettled February if that is correct. The jet stream again is a strong jet stream coming across the Atlantic. We're probably still on the cool side of a jet with that, as we was with the JMA, so it does allow for some northwesterly, northerly influences to come into that trough of low pressure at times. There could be some cooler or colder conditions, maybe some wintry spells, but overall that is a very unsettled looking signal. It will be a very wet January, I think, if these charts are right. It's going to be a very wet winter as well if these charts are correct. So quite a remarkable sort of winter it's shaping up to be in terms of rainfall, but not in the way that people would have wanted it if they like cold weather, but certainly going to be a much wetter than average January and a much wetter than average winter. Now finally, I just said that we had some interesting charts from the GFS model. Let's have a quick look at that before I go. Now yesterday I did a video saying that we might get some sort of easterly later next week. Would you believe it? The charts have changed again, and now it looks like any easterly influences are off the menu for next week, and we're going to keep things in from west. This is such a subtle pattern that just a few hundred miles difference either way does make a big difference. But this morning's idea is that we keep winds in from the west into the latter stages of next week, so it's not going to be particularly cold. In fact, it could turn quite mild right at the end of next week, but it's staying unsettled with low pressure in control. That backs up what we saw with the JMA model, of course. As we go into the final weekend of January, the 25th on into the 26th of January, well, yeah, we've got low pressure here, well and truly in control of pattern, so it's staying unsettled. But what's happening is that the trough, as the Scandinavian high begins to recede back up towards central parts of Russia, the trough of low pressure starts to push through Scandinavia, and that starts to allow some cooler air to begin to come round from the northwest. As we move through today, 10, Monday the 27th, bringing another area of low pressure in. That's quite a deep one, and that could be quite an intense storm system. But look at this, as we get through to the 28th, and this is 276 hours away, it's a long way out, but the idea is that we take that low pressure through the country, and look, we're extending a ridge from the Atlantic up towards Greenland and pulling the winds round into the north. That's a much, much colder pattern than we've had at any point really through the course of this winter. As I say, what we saw in the JMA update is that the pattern it's setting up does allow for some colder influences from the north and the northwest. This could be the first signal of one of those colder snaps coming through right at the end of January. We may start to see something a little bit colder coming down from the north In fact, substantially colder on the basis of this, but of course it's such a long way out that you can't really take it too seriously. This chart for Wednesday the 29th is 300 hours away. It's right at the extended range of the JFS bar, but it's the sort of thing that could happen if we was able to start shifting that trough more towards central parts of Europe. We could then start to allow some colder air to infiltrate from the north, and of course particularly the northern part of the country with this is exposed to snow showers, less of a risk of snow down in the south, but all parts would have a risk of some sort of wintry conditions. But the main thing is the pattern is significantly changing there, with the trough over Central Europe, the ridge through the Atlantic going up to Greenland. That is a lot colder for the end of January. The ECMWF doesn't go as far as that, so we can't see whether it would set this up, but for next weekend, anyway, the weekend 25th, 26th, it is bringing in this westerly flow, so again, both GFS and the ECM have dropped that idea of ECs later next week. But by the time we get through today, 10, Monday the 27th, there's that low pressure coming through. That's the low pressure that the GFS wants to shift off into Central Europe and pull down that northerly wind. Whether the ECMWF would show that on the next chart, if it went out another 12 hours or 24 hours, would the ECMWF show that? I'm not sure, but certainly that's a very deep area of low pressure coming through, so another significant spell of gales on the 27th of January, if that's right. And then if that low pressure is able to push through to Central Europe, we do possibly open the floodgates to the north. Probably not for long, it probably only lasts a few days, but it will be our first significant cold snap of the winter right at the end of January. So that's going to be one to keep an eye on. But overall, I think we're keeping it very unsettled for the rest of January. Probably, if the JMA and CFS are correct, probably very unsettled going through February as well. It's going to be a remarkably wet winter if these charts are right. If the unsettled weather goes on into February, it will be a very wet winter, and we'll just have to wait and see how it all pans out. That's it for now. Hope you found the video interesting. We'll be doing the weekend forecast tomorrow. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.